What's up, guys? Welcome back to another MarbleCast. Today I'm joined by David Osorio, the head coach and owner of CrossFit South Brooklyn. David Osorio is the Northeast District CrossFit representative, and I'm excited to talk to him today. So we hope you enjoy this episode. Let's check it out. What's going on, brother? How the hell are you?
I'm doing all right, hanging in there like the rest of us. This last year and a half, year, I guess, now it's been.
Yeah, man. How is New York and dealing with this pandemic so far, and has it improved in the last couple months?
So we were in New York. We were closed for 5.5 months, from like March 16th, and then we reopened September 2nd. And since then, as far as gyms are concerned, there hasn't been really too much change. We're operating, I think the guidance was about 33% capacity, either your, occupancy or as far as you can distance people 6 feet apart. But we've been running with classes, about 11 folks per class. We started with 8 and then we bumped up to 11 over the first month or two that we opened up. So, it's been going fine. People are happy to come back to the gym. At this point, I was just off with Dennis and Jen from Garden City a couple days ago, and really it's more similar than different in terms of just, with the exception of smaller classes and wearing masks and some of the basic safety protocols. But it's going all right. It's going okay. I know California has been outside for the better part of the year now. I think they just got something like some small percent, 25 or something percent access back inside. So I'm really glad we're not in California.
Yeah, for sure. Like New York and California have been hit so hard, and it's like we've been operating indoors since June, even though we weren't supposed to. And everything's been fine. Have you had any issues with any breakouts at your gym, or has anybody complained?
No. We took it pretty seriously in terms of our precautions coming in, as most gyms seem to. Mask distancing, no shared stations, things like that. We haven't had any transmission in our gym. We've had, I'd say 10 to 15 people who have come to us and been like, oh, hey, it turns out I was either exposed to someone with COVID or I have COVID myself. And we'll contact all the people who were in their classes, let them know the deal. But we haven't had any transmission actually happen in the gym. We had one that was kind of like, it was unclear. We had one of our coaches had a personal train client who came down with COVID a couple days after their session. And then, our coach started to get a couple symptoms. So he just, automatically, stayed home. But then he got 2 negative tests. So we weren't really sure what it was, but that was the closest thing we've had to anything going on. I know a couple gyms that I've talked to, and it's been rare. The majority, I would say 95% of the gyms that I've talked to have been like, yeah, we haven't had any transmission. It's been, good to go. A couple of gyms that I've talked to had some transmission, but it was really more like the staff, where someone on staff got it, and then, then being a little bit more closer, they had a couple of people on staff get it, and they might have had to close the gym down for a couple of days or modify their operations. But as far as us, we've been pretty good. We've been very fortunate.
Yeah, we had the same issue. Like, a few people have come to us and said they were positive, so we closed the gym, I think, twice. Once for a week and another once for like a couple days, just to reassess and just rearrange the schedule. But other than that, we've been pretty safe. Everything's kept clean. And our members in our community have been pretty strong. We've been okay throughout this entire thing. Luckily. Yeah. Thank God. But over the summer, there's been some changes to CrossFit, and you're now the Northeast Director or District Rep for CrossFit. And how did that come about through the new HQ or the new head owner of the business, I guess?
It's home office now.
Yeah, home office.
They're trying to get everyone to go from HQ to home office, but it's lingering. It's hard to shake. I still call it HQ all the time. So when Rosa came on, I think that the district rep roles actually kind of popped up in that interim where like Castro was the kind of interim CEO for a minute, and then that was pretty short-lived, and then Rosa took over. So I came on in, I believe it was October of last year, and their initial round of affiliate reps, like they wanted to the program rolling. So they kind of like just put out there like people, you can nominate someone, put someone's name out there who's in the region who's relatively well known or thinks might be a good job at this. So my name popped up, I guess, in the early discussions. A few people had reached out, said that that I might be a good fit for this, and yeah, they reached out to me, and I, with all that had happened in CrossFit, and all the changes we'd seen over the last year, I wanted to the best of my abilities be a force for change, a catalyst for change, in terms of making this the company that I think that it always could have been. I myself, was an affiliate have been an affiliate for over 13 years. And in that 13 years, I'd only gotten like one phone call from home office ever being like, hey, how you doing? How's it going? And, fortunately, like most affiliates, we're all really independently minded and, hey, we do our thing. We run with our operations and, we're not looking for a ton of support. But I think everyone would have wanted more support, like we wouldn't turn it away, a little more support, engagement directly in communication with CrossFit. So I saw this role as an opportunity to kind of change the tides. So, being a resource for affiliates is something that I've always been passionate about. I've always been interested in open sourcing what we do, kind of dialoguing about what other people are doing, and just doing whatever I can to help the affiliate community. So I thought it was a great role for me, and I was like, I'm going to jump on it, and then we'll kind of take it from there and see what happens. And it's been great. I've been able to, I've talked to well over 100 affiliates at this point, in Zoom calls, some in person, and just getting to meet people, learn from people, see where they're at, get feedback from them. What do they want to see more out of CrossFit? What's their feedback in terms of how they can be better supported, things like that. So it's been a great learning experience. It's been great to connect with so many people, and like people, the people who do this are great. Like that's the overarching theme that I've seen with every affiliate owner that I've talked to, is that everyone's just in it for the right reasons. They fell in love with CrossFit. They fell in love with the methodology. They wanted to help people. A lot of them had, really significant transformations in their own lifestyle, whether it be like getting off addiction or turning their life around or leaving a job they hated, or their life was in a situation that they didn't find sustainable or fulfilling, and then they're like, this is fulfilling, I want to help people. So that's kind of been one of the most common things that's been so refreshing, is again, like the people's motivations for starting affiliates has always been something that's been really great and from a sincere and beneficial place.
So CrossFit gets this flack for having basically you only need an L1 and a weekend course to open a CrossFit gym, which is true, but according to any other gym, you don't need any of that. You could just open a gym. So, I mean, that's the trade-off. At least we're going to a course and learning how to teach people and coach people how to do these movements. And a majority of the people that are opening these gyms, like you said, want to help people and have been in the fitness game for a while before they just jump into a CrossFit gym. We're not just opening gyms because we think it's cool. At least not anymore. Maybe 10, 11 years ago, that was the case, and those gyms probably didn't make it. So like yourself, you've been in the game for over 10 years. Your affiliate was probably one of my first experiences with the Open in 12.1. We went to your box, I think, to do that on the weekend, and it was like my first experience in a box. It was awesome. It was crazy, and you walk into this place, and you're like, this is where I want to train, because we trained in a regular gym. So with all of the people you've been talking to, what is the support we can get dealing with, one, that complaint that CrossFit's so easy to open, anybody can do it, which is correct and incorrect at the same time. Plus, we're battling against every other fitness boot camp that opens with the same premise, but with without all of the skill work. So how do we compete against that?
Yeah, so I think that I totally agree with that. Like, there's one element of like what I've always said is like literally anybody can open a gym. Like people say there's a low barrier for CrossFit. Like you can just pick a random person off the street and they can just open a gym tomorrow and no one's going to stop them. That's just the nature of the beast right now. I think it's easier with CrossFit because we're, an umbrella term, so you can make blanket statements about an organization much easier than individual gyms that have popped up or doing whatever they do. And I also, agree that like CrossFit went through its like awkward teen stage or its developmental stages, like in the early days, and people were figuring out like how do we best take care of people, what are best practices, how do we keep people safe, how do we implement the program effectively. And from my opinion, it's only gotten better over the years.
I agree.
In terms of like, you go to different gyms and you're like, oh, okay, they got a pretty good handle on this. So I think that what they're doing at home office right now, and you're going to see over the next year or so, but towards the end of this year, and in terms of after the games and stuff, they have a really strong incentive to provide. The kind of mantra is tools, not rules. They respect the autonomy of the affiliate, and that's why and I'm sure you got into it, is that I was able to express my vision of this gym, what my culture, my rules, my pricing, what I thought best served my community, versus, a franchise model, which I wouldn't have done if that was the nature of the beast.
100%.
Back then. So, and, in talking to affiliates, there's a handful of things that people really want. Like, I've been asking affiliates, for the last several months, like, how can you be better supported? And it's increased communication is number one. They want to hear more what's going on from home office. They want to have a voice where they can reach out, a little more effectively to somebody and get some feedback, or just talk through whatever it might be. They want better marketing. If a lot of affiliates are like, hey, listen, like, I would love to see CrossFit leverage its media sources and its media capabilities to create more lead generation for us, to help shift the perception of what CrossFit is. You ask 10 people on the street what they think of CrossFit, you might get 10 different answers, right? And I think that, in my opinion, like, in terms of the leadership of CrossFit, like, now we finally have more adults in the room. You have people who understand that, like, we have a big organization now. We have to, be really professional and really put our best foot forward. So I think that, one is, like, again, changing whether it be the stigma or the preconceived notions or the negative associations with CrossFit. And, like, we've all seen the things at the commercials of the games, during the game season, where you see these amazing commercials that you see, like, yeah, this is what people in our gyms look like. You have older people, heavier people, younger people. You have 98% of the people doing CrossFit just want to be fit and live a positive lifestyle. So, having that marketing and then providing resources essentially for affiliates. And that's one of the big projects that is happening internally is, this bevy of, like, okay, human resources, whether it be like human resources, hiring, firing, how to do those things professionally, class management, marketing, advertising, copy, putting a website together, so they've done a really good job over the last, however long Rose has been in charge, really listening to affiliates, like, how can we support you, right? And putting together a suite of resources for affiliates that they can come into and say, okay, I need some hiring practices or, some help with programming or whatever it is. There'll be kind of a portal essentially where affiliates, who want that information can learn. And it might be 3 or 4 different ways to do the same thing. The idea is not like this is the one way to do something, but hey, these are, 4 different things that have worked for different affiliates over the years. See what makes the most sense for you and take that. So I think the way that the HQ home office can support affiliates, again, is providing these tools. And behind the scenes, there's a lot of movement with that, where it's like, number one is respect people's autonomy. And number 2 is give them the resources to be successful. Because a lot of affiliates, and, myself included, have to learn the hard way about how to do things. You just learn through trial and error. And there's been enough of us that have gone through this that, it's criminal that we're not, taking these best practices and sharing them with the rest of the community in a more kind of centralized way.
Sorry, I had that phone ring.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. The autonomy is very important, and the best thing about that is this gets a lot of heat too, because a lot of people are like, because you're owning it a certain way, you're doing you're doing things your way, and I'm doing things my way. So what is CrossFit if you're doing it one way and I'm doing it a different way? But that to me is the advantage of being an owner. So another issue that that I saw is that HQ or home office wants to put together like online foundations classes so that they can just integrate these people into the gym. But how would they integrate the athlete and into which gym, and how does that work? Does the athlete or the person just pick one, or do they push them in a certain way? So how would that work?
That's the on-ramp program,
right.
And it's still in its beta version. It's only available in a couple of cities right now while they're figuring out the kinks and how it will all work. And so they're still kind of working with that. So I think, number one, the primary intention for OnRamp is lead generation for affiliates, and they're investing advertising into people who are not searching for CrossFit. So their target market for that is people who are not already looking to join a CrossFit affiliate necessarily, who are not on .com, who they might be able to kind of, get to, hey, what's this all about? Let me check this out and get interested in it. And then in terms of how that works, so there's some different models they're still kind of, again, like I said, they're in the beta version. They're still trying to figure out, what's the best way to do all this, trialing out with folks. And so one model that's being discussed is like, you have this on-ramp program and someone might be able to book through your website. So if they come to, your website, interested in how to sign up, there might be a referral where you are able to say, hey, this is the link, and then that's associated with your affiliate, so that after they finish that on-ramp program, it's like, okay, hey, book a session at Dark Horse because they booked through you. The other version is just proximity, where it's like, okay, this is my address that I put in when I sign up. These are the affiliates within 10 miles based on proximity too. So they were very, very, very conscious of, and still are, of the fairness of it. They want to make sure that everyone gets a fair crack at this. And again, like as they mentioned, like their strong thing was the intention was like, we want to get people who are not already looking for CrossFit, and teach them about what this is all about, give them an avenue for entry, and then hopefully that becomes lead generation for the affiliates. But their primary, right now the emphasis primarily on the affiliate, like supporting affiliates, providing resources and things like that. They realize there's a larger market of people who might, do a remote, version of CrossFit in their house. How can they be supported digitally? But that's not their priority. Their priority right now is like, let's get bodies into the affiliate. So it's gonna be interesting. Again, like I said, still in beta. They're still working the kinks out, but that was, in all the conversations that I've been around, that fairness about, where these leads go to is priority number one. They want to make sure that every affiliate gets a crack at it. And make sure, again, like what the intention here is not to funnel away from our own foundations programs, but it's to find people who were not even looking for us to begin with, and then get those people, interested and engaged in CrossFit, and that's where they can start their journey.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be a great thing to try and get new people into the door, and that brings me up to, I was listening to the Dennis and Jen interview you guys did. And you guys were you altered, or I think Dennis said he altered his foundations program from like 6 weeks down to 3 weeks. And then it's just like, all right, just come in and work out, because everything has been cut down. Have you had that same experience where you've had to cut down your foundations program or offer different kinds of deals just to get people back in the door after all of this?
I mean, absolutely. We definitely, like, our history of our foundations, like Dennis, has taken a few different turns. In the early days, years ago, this is over a decade ago, our foundations was 12 sessions. And like I always say, like, you'd get a PhD in CrossFit by the time you were done with it. Like, we ran you through everything, and like you would expose to every movement like 3 or 4 times before you actually got in group classes. But one of the issues I think we've all faced is like the barriers of entry. People are usually wanting to, like, hey, I'm excited about a gym. I want to sign up today. How do I get in? And sometimes like, all right, well, you got to wait 3 weeks before our next foundation cycle's opened up, or whatever the case might be. For the mass majority of our up until the pandemic, we've always done small group foundations. We can do private if you want to opt into that, a one-on-one foundations program, or you would do it's changed between 4 and 6 sessions with a group of 4 to 5 people in your little cohort. Right now, because when we reopened, we went from having such a high membership, such high volume membership, to now having limited slots in classes. We actually for the first couple of months, didn't accept any new members whatsoever. So we just put all our introductory and foundations and intake programs on hold, because we want to get our old members back in and give them priority for the limited availability that we currently have. Since then, we have transitioned to a private model where they do 3 private sessions with a coach. And then, what we'll have basically is kind of a litmus of like, these are the movements they're expected to be familiar with. right? Like the base movements they're going to see in group class, they need to be exposed to them. And we also have like a movement scale between 1 to 5 in terms of like, 5 is like dumpster fire, like not good, and 1 is like virtuosity. So the idea being like you need most people to be at least a 3 or so on that movement scale before they can come into group class. The nice thing about the individual intake is that I think there's pluses and minuses. So the downsides of it are you don't get the community experience. So a lot of times one of the benefits of having the group foundations is you're already in this environment of being in a group class, and it's a little bit less intimidating once you've kind of gone through that, and you're with the same people, so you're with the same cohort, so you go into the program knowing a few people already, and I think that's great. And again, it more reflects what they're going to be actually experiencing in the group classes. It's also more affordable. The nice thing about the private is that person really gets a foundation that's tailored towards their needs. So the coach is able to look at them based on their experience and like, okay, you've done X, Y, Z before. We don't have to spend a lot of time covering this. We can focus on the Olympic lifts, or we can focus on the movements that you haven't covered, or you have particular, movement deficiencies that need to be addressed. Here's some, mobility, some stretches, some supplemental work that you can do that's going to help your specific situation. And it's also an opportunity to educate that person about other services that we offer, whether it be remote programming or having semi-occasional privates, or that person might be like, oh, you know what, I really like private training sessions. Let me do this for a little bit longer. We've had people who signed up for 3, and then after that, they're like, can we just keep doing this? I really like this. I really like getting, this individual attention. And let me do 10 sessions now, with my coach, or let me see this coach every third week or something like that. So, or there's nutrition consultation or lifestyle consultation, things that you can do that you kind of educate that member more specifically and really get to know them. So we're doing that right now, and when restrictions ease up and we're able to have, a little bit more people in the gym, I will go back to kind of a hybrid where you can do the one-on-one, which I'm going to make a little bit more affordable, and then also some group version that I would like to have, because I think having both avenues is helpful, I think, to get people in the door. But unless someone's got significant CrossFit experience, they're transferring from another affiliate. For us, everyone has to go through some sort of,
assessment
on-ramping process. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And then I think that's, one of just to go back to the on-ramp program is, another, and this is something that I've talked to a lot of affiliates, probably the thing that almost every affiliate has changed or had to reconsider since closure is how do we onboard people? Because we just don't have the volume of people coming back in. How do we do it? How do we get people back in the door? How do we revalidate this process? So one idea too is that this on-ramp program might be an opportunity to kind of accelerate someone coming into your gym, where it's like, okay, person A wants to join, and they say, hey, I've gone through on-ramp and I've gone through these courses. Maybe that in one session you can meet with that person and like kind of refine what they've gone through, because on-ramp's 40 hours. It's 12 sessions, 40 hours of training. It's got variable in terms of how much equipment you have, and you get lesson plans and you get like nutrition information, lifestyle information. So you leave that course having a pretty robust understanding of not only CrossFit but some of the other health and wellness elements around it. So that, I think that's another opportunity for affiliates who are having a hard time onboarding people. Maybe they have limited resources and staff. That it could be a tool for some people to help accelerate that process, getting people into their gym.
Is that resource available to affiliate owners, or is it just people that sign up for that on-ramp program?
Right now, it's just people that sign up for the on-ramp program. And I think that, like I said, it's still in the beta course, so I think they're trying to figure out what's the best way to use this in the best interest of affiliates. Right,
because I'm sure like your foundations is going to be a little bit different than the way I run it. Like I run all mine 3 sessions, and I have 3 specific workouts that I take through everybody. And once they finish those, they jump to classes, and we don't have a large group. Like your box is a lot larger than mine. And so our classes, maybe there's 8 to 10 people at the most anyway. Mm-hmm. So we integrate new people in there all the time, and our coaches just pay attention to the new people, make sure they understand what's happening, and everybody else, just keep a close eye. But with this 40 hours on-ramp, it'd be nice if the affiliate owners got to see what these people are doing, and then I can sort of adjust the way I do things based on their experience with that, if that makes any sense.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and that's I think some feedback we've gotten too is like owners want to be like, well, what's in this program, so I really understand it.
Yeah.
They gave as a district they gave me access, and I've gone through some of the curriculum, and it's it's like CrossFit puts out really good. Their training department I think is second to none.
Yeah.
You've got the level one coaches going through it. They're so clear, they're so concise, and I was really impressed with it. Like when I actually realized, oh, this is 40 hours of like content. This is a lot of information,
Right.
like, but done in a very, digestible format. I was pretty impressed with the program, but I definitely hear you out that, like, you don't want to take it on just on faith that they know what they're doing.
I'm sure it's great. I just want to know what it is.
Exactly. So you can refer back to it and be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, remember in class 2 when you did X, Y, Z?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you know what it costs to do the on-ramp online?
150. Is
Oh,
the
that's
price
not
right
bad.
now.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you did foundations with yours, like for a 12-week program. Our foundations has always been like a private group. So I don't get a large influx of people normally. If I do, then they just get a small group for the first class. And then based on the first 20 minutes, the person knows if they want to stay or not. So I always give that first class for free. Come in, try it out. It's basically a mini version of what we're going to do anyway. So you're going to know right away if you like this or you don't like this. And then we sort of go through the membership options and everything on the second session.
Well, what we would typically do prior to the pandemic, we don't have this anymore, but we did a free intro class on Sundays. And I taught that class. I love teaching that class because it gives me, especially as my gym got really big, I felt like I became less connected to the individual members. When we were smaller, I knew everybody. I knew, who they were, their families. We had a very intimate relationship with all of our members. And then, we kept growing and growing to the point it was just impossible, for that to be the reality anymore. So I used to teach all the foundations. I stepped away from that years ago, just, not like intentionally, just because that's how things worked out. But I would teach the free intro class, and I really loved being like the first point of contact for members to be like, hey, or potential members, like, hey, I'm the owner. And yeah, that class was like, we made it really fun. It was something that anyone could be successful at. We would do a little warm up. We usually did our warm up. We would do like, some sled pushes, medium light sled pushes, sit ups and ring rows, a little triplet there. Then we would do an AMRAP WOD that was like usually rowing, burpee box jumps, and what was the third movement we would do? We would switch it out a little bit, but basically movements that anyone can get, or I think dumbbell push presses. So something that anyone can be successful with, we can have fun on, and then we educate them about the program. And people they're like, okay, I know what happens at this gym. Am I in or am I out? And then from there they would go into foundations. And we had a really high, I don't know the specific number, but we would have, if I had 5 or 6 people show up for that class, typically, 3 to 4 would sign up for foundations on the spot. And they'd be like, boom, I'm in. I want to get into this. Because I wanted to be really transparent. Like, this is what a class is like. This is what you're going to experience. This is the vibe. This is the flavor of it. And people got, that transparent look at, okay, this is what I'm signing up for.
I agree with that model of you being the face of your gym. Because when you put somebody else there and they're introduced to somebody else, it might not get that same flavor that you'll give it. So I love that. Because I am that way, too. I'm a huge control freak, and I don't like when everybody does things. When I give people my foundations program, I write and type out everything I want them to say and do exactly how I would do it. This way they know what they're getting themselves into. So I'm kind of like, I need to be in charge of everything. So that kind of brings me back to my the next thing I want to talk to you about is you went from the park workouts to you were operating in a smaller gym. And how many times have you moved since you opened?
Yeah, so I was in the park for the first 4 months or so, and then I went to a place called the Brooklyn Lyceum, which was a shared space. I was just paying by the hour. I was renting hourly. It was a performance space, and I was there for maybe a year and a half. And that was a really cool spot. It had its pluses and minuses. There was no heat, no temperature control, ceiling leaked, things would fall. It was pretty gritty. But, back then you felt like you were like Rocky because it was like, big, like exposed brick and it was a really cool spot. But we outgrew that. And then probably it's been 12 or 13 years. We opened 597, which is kind of where we still are, our main space, I might say. A couple of years into that, we leased the second floor. And we call that the annex. So we use that for spillover space, for private training, for foundations, for yoga, Pilates, some other classes that we were beginning to offer. And then about 7 years ago, we opened up a location across the street. So it's the same gym. It's not different locations. I got to a point where we were just like, we had the good problem of too many people. You know, it would be like a CrossFit nightclub in there where I was like, all right, there's 2 people here. I was like, this is a good problem to have. Any business owner wants this, but you know, this is not good. So we were able to expand across the street. So our 597 is 5,000 square feet. 608 is another 5,000 square feet, and then the annex is about 1,200 square feet. So we're about 1,102 square feet. So again, we've been in the same spot for the better part of 12 plus years now.
Yeah. All right. You had like a weightlifting gym that was across the street, if I'm not mistaken, right? That's where you kind of put like Frankie Murray was working with you for a little while.
Yeah. So we had, that was our space. I wouldn't call it a weightlifting gym. We just had 2 gyms that we considered. It was like, in my head, I was like, it's one gym.
One gym, yeah.
They happen to be across the street from each other. So in 597, what we ended up doing is most of the group classes would happen in 597. And then most of the personal training, barbell programs, kids programs, some other specialty programs that we had would end up going to that space, to the other one across the street. But we thought that, it was interchangeable. Like we would definitely have group classes in both spaces. It wasn't separate programs, and it was just, one gym that was kind of our footprint.
As you kept growing and you kept having to manage more and more overhead, how did you manage competing against the other boxes that would open in the area? Because Brooklyn is notorious for having a box on like every corner.
We have, I think that there's a gym there's a couple gyms not too far from us. Park Slope, CrossFit's maybe 4 or 5 blocks away. 718's not too far away. And, at the end of the day, it was just like, we just do our own thing. I think that it's easy to get wound up in like, oh my God, like someone has moved in and, whatever it is. But like, ultimately, it didn't change what we do. We focus on what happens within our 4 walls. We do our best to serve our community. I think, especially in Brooklyn, there's enough to go around.
Yeah.
It depends on the market, but I know that like for us, I never felt a sense of scarcity, in terms of like people who are interested in coming and training. And I would rather have everyone have a positive experience. Like I would rather have someone go to the gym, 5 blocks away, have a positive experience with CrossFit, and maybe they drop into our space one day, or they just have they tell a friend, their friend checks us out, So I never felt the scarcity of it. I was just like, life's too short, man. Just like, focus on what you do it well, and good things will come back around. And I don't look at them as competitors necessarily. And I think I also have the benefit of like, we've been around for so long.
Yeah.
We really planted our flag really early on in 2007 and have been able to build a membership base and a reputation, that, someone opening up down the street, I'm not that worried about it, for based on how long we've been around and what we're doing.
That's a good way to look at it for sure. And it's hard, especially in New York now and forever. It has always been really hard to own a business. So you're doing an incredible job, and it's really awesome. And your box is primo. So if anybody's in Brooklyn area, please go visit David. He's CrossFit South Brooklyn.
Yeah, doing it like, I don't know what the future holds for me, but I was like, if I can do this in New York, I can hopefully do this anywhere,
For sure.
Like I said, I started in a park, and, when I started, it was like no one knew what CrossFit was.
Yeah.
So I was not about to go into the financial peril of opening a spot and be beholden to a lease and all these expenses of building out when no one knew what this thing was. So my model was like a lot of businesses, necessarily, like if you're a restaurant or whatever else, like, for most people, they have no other choices, but you bury a whole debt, in terms of investing in your space and your equipment and your staff, whatever else you have to. And then over time, you try to refill that hole to get back to baseline to where you can make a profit. I was really risk adverse. I was just like, man, no one knows what this is, and I don't have any money. So I'm not about to go into debt over this thing. I want the proof of concept to work. So that's why I started in a park. So I was like, I've got no debt. I'm just gonna, grab a teaspoon of sand and put it on top and be like, all right, I'm here once a week and I've got some homemade equipment. Let's take it from there. and then just building it gradually. Now, I definitely, appreciate the fact that that was a different time in CrossFit, the CrossFit ecosystem, that if it was a guy in a park, you're like, oh, it's a guy in a park. I guess this is what this thing is.
Yeah.
Whereas now that would be a much harder sell, where you're like,
sure.
well, these people have bathrooms, and a roof. So it's like...
You pay for those luxuries.
Yeah, exactly. But no, yeah, it's tough in New York. It's expensive. We were closed for 5.5 months, and I had to pay full rent for the 5.5 months while we were closed. And that got us. I mean, our rent is quite expensive.
Right.
So it's been really tough. It's definitely been like, you're kind of holding on, white knuckling it sometimes.
Dude, I know that game. You have it a lot harder than I do, for sure. That's why I moved to Jersey.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of Brooklyn.
So you're Brooklyn. You're from South Brooklyn, or you lived in Brooklyn?
So I'm from Marine Park, Midwood area.
Okay.
So we started in 2009 just working out in the regular gym. Mm-hmm. And I think 2011 or 2012 was our first open that we were just doing in the gym. And I think your spot was the first one that we went to. And I don't know if you remember my buddy Dave Charbonneau.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So
Dave
that's who I worked out with when we first started.
It's quite a guy to keep up with.
I couldn't. That's why I started weightlifting. I was like, you know what? I'm never going to keep up with him, but at least I can get a little strong with weightlifting. So that's where more of my focus is.
Yeah.
But all right, brother. Any last words of advice for other affiliate owners or people in the gym world that you'd like to give?
I think, I've said this many times. I don't mean to beat a dead horse with other interviews and stuff, but if for folks who haven't heard it, like, I think that, from my experience, there's sort of 4 pillars that a successful affiliate is built on. And, they're more kind of concepts that can be expressed in many different ways. But, I think for affiliate to be successful, it has to be professional, inclusive, effective, and fun. Professional being you have professional coaches, the classes are run well, they're timely, things are clear, people's needs are addressed, things are explained correctly, it's clean, all that stuff that people come in like, oh, this is a professional organization. This is not just like somebody's basement that I'm having to work out in. Inclusive being, a few different ways, but one, like on a larger scale, that whomever walks into your gym, whether they're, 60 pounds overweight, haven't worked out in a decade, or, they're a Division I athlete, or like most people somewhere in the middle of that, that they feel like they're welcome there, there's a place for them there, and they're accepted. It doesn't matter if they're older or younger, whatever it is, they're able to come into your space. And then I think also, certainly we've seen this in the last year in terms of like, for us, like we are very proactive about like trying to showcase our inclusion. We have a statement of inclusion and anti-oppression that we have in all our bathrooms. We have a BIPOC class that we have a sliding scale. We have sliding scale memberships, so for every 35 members that we have, we offer one sliding scale membership. It could be $0, it could be $100, whatever that person is willing to pay. So try to make, your gym accessible and inclusive for whomever walks in. I think that's the beauty of CrossFit. We cut down on our programs because of the pandemic. And we'll rebuild them. But like, I think it's one thing to say, hey, anyone's welcome here, but it's another thing to really kind of put that best foot forward and also have specific classes. Like we had a master's program. We had a postpartum class. We had an adaptive class. One of our coaches had spearheaded a program for people in recovery from AA and NA. And sometimes you have to open those doors specifically for people to get them into your space. And it just creates a much more vibrant, interesting, and dynamic culture in the gym to have people from different walks of life being like, hey, there's a place for me here. Effective would be that it actually works. Like you're getting people better, you're keeping people safe. Like at the end of the day, it's like it can be all well and fun and everyone's having a good time. But if people aren't progressing, people aren't getting better, people aren't training effectively, then like, what are we doing? That actually comes down to the root of our craft. And then last but not least is fun. Just have fun with it. When I started the business, it was like, like if you're like on a road trip, the places you remember is like that little mom and pop, diner with like all the stuff on the walls, and it's part of the community, it's the fabric of the local community, and they're very distinctive. Like that's what I wanted in my affiliate. That I come in, it's just like fun. People are laughing. It's got character. It's got history. It's got culture. It's not a sterile environment. something that people just want to be part of and have that kind of like warm and fuzzy feeling for. So I think that like for me again, like those pillars are if you chase those, any affiliate can be successful, any gym can be successful really. So again, that's kind of like how I would summarize what I think that the pillars of success for an affiliate are. How those are expressed and manifested is going to be different gym to gym, but ultimately, that's I think the recipe for success in my opinion.
Awesome, and I agree with all of those. If you guys are in Brooklyn, go check out CrossFit South Brooklyn. David Osorio will take care of you. Thank you so much for coming on here, brother. Appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much. And any affiliates watching, again, New York, New Jersey, I'm available for y'all. If you haven't already touched base with me, you can reach out to me. David at CrossFit South Brooklyn is one way. So you can email me there. You should have gotten emails from me anyway.
That's true.
Yeah, book a call. We have roundtable groups that we have set up. I'm available for you, and I'd love to meet as many as I can and help us all move forward.
Yeah, man. Subscribe to CrossFit South Brooklyn. Subscribe to CrossFit Dark Athletics. Age is inevitable. Weakness is not, so get out there and lift some shit, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching today's MarbleCast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any content. Check out our Spreadshirt shop to grab some swag, and if you would like to support the MarbleCast, please head over to anchor.fm. All of the links are in the description, and it helps us out to keep the channel running. Thanks so much, guys. See you next time.